Thank you to all of our sponsors: the Comfort Area Foundation, Calibri Magic, America Reclaimed, Hotel Giles, Singing Water Vineyards, Das Greenhouse, and everyone who supports comfort in building Texas.
Well, Missy Ivankovich, thank you for sitting down with me today again on Building Texas. And we're talking about comfort today. And with comfort, I couldn't think of a better place to be sitting, enjoying a beautiful day, but to talk about the future of comfort. And I think what you and Andy have built here at Singing Water is a great example of someone investing into the region, and not just into your piece of the region, but what you're doing is benefiting everyone. So I'm really excited to sit down with you today and talk about what does that mean, and then why did you and Andy decide that this is where you wanted to plant such roots? And I love the example that you're giving to the kids in comfort, your kids, and then all the others, that this kind of land and this type of farming is an income-producing way of life. So let's start there. I'm looking out over your vineyards. I'm seeing a solar array. Where are we and what are we doing?
Well, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for thinking of us. Singing Water has been a tremendous blessing for our family, and hopefully a blessing to other families as well. We got started here in Comfort because we always had a dream of being outside. One of the dreams that we would lay in bed and talk about early in our marriage was, could you imagine being able to do a job where you could take your dog to work? Yeah. You know, and Hurley's here with us today. So we not only have a dog, we have a goat and a llama. There are 17 goats and a donkey. So it's the dream on steroids for sure. We were Urbanites. We had, done a lot of work in software. We were used to city life. Our kids were suburbanites. And it was just not the dream that we'd had for ourselves or for our family. And so when we had the opportunity to get out into nature and to do something new, we made the pivot and the switch. And we were looking for land. We were looking for something that our kids could be involved in. They were middle school and early elementary at the time. And we wanted something that was, again, going to be income producing. It couldn't just sit. We wanted something that you had to work at, a little bit. So here we are.
Well, in the way of farms today, you are income producing in a couple different ways. So very entrepreneurial farming situation where I see you in the vineyard work, and I want to get to the research that you're doing there. But then you have the vineyard, you have the winery, and you bring about 500 people out here for events and concerts. I love the new stage that's going up here. And that really is, it's a trip to get here. But when you're here, you want to stay. Mm-hmm. And when you're here, you'll see your kids doing a wonderful job working. But I've seen them doing ranch work. I've seen them doing farming work. And then I've service work. Right. So the example that you're giving for people in comfort and for your employees in comfort is a way to live and work here in the region. And you're continuing to invest in that. So how is the transition for suburbanite into farming and ranching and agri-life going for you and the family?
Having an 18-year-old that's just graduating, twin boys are 17, and a 10-year-old, it's they would say they would much prefer the urbanite right now, but they don't realize yet the value of what they've been able to do and learn. With the exception of my 18-year-old, she really did say, "Thank you, Mom. I have 4 years of work experience going into college. I have done cellar work. I have labeled bottles by myself." She's counted up the bottles that she's labeled, single-handedly. She understands the winemaking process. She's been a big part of the injections.
Nice.
Out in the vineyard to get our vineyard free of Pierce's disease. We'll talk about that a little bit. Everything to service. Now she's 18, so she can serve, and she loves the customer service aspect of that as well. So the kids piece of it, I think, is critical. My background was more education, and so I come with a bent of, if we're going to do something, we're going to invest in the people that are going to help make that happen, right? And the people closest to us are our kids, but then by extension, it becomes our kids and our kids' friends and their friends and our employees' kids. And so a lot of our employees are actually families, family units. And so the whole family will come out and work, together because they see what we're doing. And you just really have that opportunity, right? If your kid is going to work at, Keen's Chicken, they're going to go do that on their own versus, having an opportunity to speak into it and work alongside your kids.
So you talked about the injections, and I think that's an important piece specifically for this region of Texas. Mm-hmm. And it's Pierce's disease that you're doing research on in partnership with Texas A&M.
Correct.
And what does that look like? What is Pierce's disease?
So Pierce's disease is a virus that attacks the vines, and it is carried by insects, most predominantly what's called the glassy-winged sharpshooter.
All right.
Super tiny little insect who loves to live near water, which we have a little creek back here behind us. And so our viticulturist, when she first came out to look at the vineyard, she said, you have to dry up all the water on the property because that's going to draw them and you're going to lose your vineyard. Well, we weren't willing to do that. And so we were looking at other alternatives. Pierce's disease will kill a vine within 3 years. And so you plant a vine. You have only 3 years that you have to wait before you're going to get fruit off that vine. And in the time that you're waiting for fruit off that vine, you will likely get Pierce's disease and the plant will die within 3 years. So you may only get one harvest season out of that. That is not an economical thing to do. This does not make sense from a business perspective, and it's not feasible, which is why here in the Texas Hill Country, we really don't have vineyards. You can drive up and down in Fredericksburg on 290. You'll see a lot of tasting rooms. You'll see some vineyards, but a lot of those vineyards are for show. They are not actually using those grapes because PD is so bad and so prevalent in our area.
And vineyards could be such a great crop for us. We've grown up with hay, tobacco, standard farming crops here in the Hill Country. But vineyards work because they don't need to go deep. They don't need the rich topsoil that other crops would need. So if we could solve for Pierce's, or at least manage it, that could bring a cash crop into Kendall County, Kerr County.
A very profitable cash crop, way beyond what you would see from any of the, there's a reason up in the panhandle of Texas that they've switched from basically cotton growers to grapevines because the yield on that is so substantially more. We'll get about $5,000 a ton for wine grapes. And that's astronomically larger than you're going to get for cotton. And so it makes sense to grow here. This is also, our region is very similar to Europe.
Yep.
We're very similar to Italy in particular. And so we grow a lot of similar vines that they would grow in Italy. With Pierce's disease really being the number one factor for why people who have started vineyards in the past have let them go under. They just couldn't keep up with that.
Well, I appreciate you and Andy being committed to 27,000 injections this season and to do the research and to give back to the entire region in that way. But you're also looking at sustainability of your entire farm. And we went through a winter storm event in 2021 that I think was eye-opening for all small businesses, but particularly for you because you carry so much inventory that is temperature risk, right? So if it gets too hot, it all goes bad. If it gets too cold, it all goes bad. So what have y'all done to protect Singing Water from our climate?
Absolutely. The thing with wine is absolutely, you're right. It cannot get too hot. If it's at 80 degrees, it's baking, and you are going to have a whole lot of vinegar on your hands. So you have to keep it temperature controlled. You have to be mindful of the AC units, keeping up with all of those. The scary part of 2021 was we had that big storm and freeze down here in Texas, and I think we had 5 days below zero. Yeah. Is that right?
That is. And,
it's funny, even now I can't even, it's unfathomable to be at that temperature, at that extreme cold for so long. Cold is a little less scary for the grapes, but it's still scary. You still can't get down to those temperatures and keep them there. And then we also had the rolling blackouts, right? And so what happened was there was not enough energy being produced from the grid. And so everybody got their, allotted time, and you'd have these rolling blackouts. That was really eye-opening for us, because we realized then this idea of climate change, and it's not so much an idea anymore. We are going through some changes. We have to be prepared for them in agriculture. We have to be focused on the future. And part of that is realizing we've got to make some changes.
It falls right into the free-thinking comfort mentality, though, as well, where you have a spirit of independence from the grid, from everyone else.
Absolutely.
Protecting and farming your land. And so I appreciate that you've made the investment. And in seeing you make that investment, that's also brought on other local trades to come grow the area. So the builders it's all very localized work.
Oh, absolutely.
And as we talk about the future of comfort and what does that look like, trades continues to come up as a future for so many, whether that's in welding and metalwork, electricity, working for the co-op, or being a vintner and coming out and farming and learning how to create the wine that is going to be enjoyed in the whole country.
Absolutely.
So when we think about how you would prepare kids in comfort for a future in comfort, what does that look like for you?
Part of that is getting the kids started in their first job. And so what we talk about here is any job that can be done by a student that's under 18, let's say anywhere from 14 to 18. We want to start them young and learning that running a business, being part of a business, is not an apples-to-apples comparison with how they're graded in a school environment. Those who do very well in an academic environment, they often require an instruction manual, right? Because they've been taught to read the instructions, do it the way I tell you to do it the way the teachers told you to do it. But when you get into a real-world environment, you have to solve these problems for yourself. Yeah. There isn't an instruction manual for parenting. There is no instruction manual for building a business. There's a lot of people that can speak into that, but you have to have the confidence to know that you can solve a problem, right? And that starts from a very young age. So when they start coming in, we do have 14, 15-year-olds that wash dishes. So they come in as dishwashers. First, we teach and train, right? How hot does the water need to be? How often do you need to change it out? Where does everything go? And inevitably, a dish gets broken or, things go wrong during the day. And one of the things that we try not to do is solve it for them. I will give them all the tools in the world to solve this problem. I show them where those tools exist, but I'm not going to do it for you, and I'm not going to write you an instruction manual on how to solve it, right? And so you start in those simple things. It's dishwashing that then leads to, once you're competent enough and able, you can start to label bottles. Yeah. You can start to stock shelves. Then you move into the kitchen. At 16, you can run the oven.
Okay.
Right? At 18, you can start to serve wine. And so it's progressive. Yeah. And there's always the next step that they're moving up to.
I so appreciate that you're showing them that progression and that you can see it as a customer out here, as a member of the wine club. you can come out and see those kids really develop year after year and transition with you, and it's been fun to watch. The other challenge that we talk about when it comes to comfort is you're ways out here, 20 minutes north of Bernie, and you're off the highway. You're not an easy pull into the tasting room. Here it is. You're a destination. They come here, and my experience is that they'll spend the afternoon here, 4-6 hours. They're not leaving. You've got great food, great live music. You're an entertaining, family-friendly place. How do you attract people back to comfort to come visit and spend time here in comfort and at your winery specifically?
That's a great question. I think that the first piece of that is we're just introducing people to this life.
Yep.
I don't think they know that it exists. Yeah. Having been a suburbanite, we lived outside of San Antonio on the north side. We lived on a third of an acre. And the kids to play ball in the yard was almost impossible because the ball would go over the fence, and then you're screwed in the first 3 minutes. And so when we saw this, we went, did you know this was here? Yeah. Did you know this was here? I didn't know this was here. Where was this when our kids were that age, right? And so a lot of that is just introducing people to the fact that it exists. Yeah. And we are unique in that we don't have huge privacy fences all the way around our property, right? Most of the properties are private land with big keep out signs. So if you came out as a San Antonian or an Austinite, you wouldn't have access. You would just drive on the road, but you couldn't see what was behind that gate.
The depth
and how, yes. And that's a great thing to think about here, right? And so from the front of our gate to the back of our property is just...
changes dramatically.
Magnificent, right?
And it's attracted companies like Ford Motor Company that came and launched the Ford Lightning here. And I think they were very lucky to find you. And then the picturesque nature of what we're doing here in Comfort is what I think really, but they all left saying it was the people. I heard it from every aspect of that team that came in, is that you and your staff were easy and wonderful to work with. Bandera Electric and the Electric Co-op was a big facilitator for that as well. But then there were so many people that came and cut roads, that built buildings, that built fences, and it was really a community spirit. And I remember Andy clearly saying how fortunate he was that so many people came together to make that happen in a timeline that was, we all thought was silly.
It was ridiculous.
We all thought it was silly.
To give some context on that, we signed the contract with Ford to basically take over the property for a week and build the roads to be able to take the Lightning truck back on the property and do some off-roading back there. And so they contracted in late March, I want to say, for a first week of May, event. And so we had 5 weeks, not only to get ready and prepare hospitality-wise for them to come. And this was their media event, so they were flying in media from around the world to come to this event and see the Lightning. But when we started that, we didn't have roads back there. We didn't have a way to access it. And so they said, well, do you have anybody there in Comfort? And Andy just started making phone calls. And I know you were one of those calls at the time.
What a testimony to the community, though, coming together.
It was phenomenal.
And it attracted so many people to Comfort. And that's why I love about Singing Water, and why when we look at the future of Comfort, you are introducing so many people, not only to the agri-life way of life, the entrepreneurial spirit of what you've done here, but then you get them to Comfort and they come back because they have a great experience here. They go explore the region, drive around. It's Mill Dam Road is a nice experience if you've never been on a small little ranch road.
Right.
It's a great getaway from the city that's right here.
Right.
20 minutes north.
The drive here is part of the experience.
Absolutely.
For sure. Because once you get on, we're always coming from I-10, but there's other ways to get here. Yeah. But coming up that way, once you kind of pass Bernie and the 46 exit, it's just the hill country begins. And I know they say San Antonio's hill country. I don't think so. I think you got to get a little bit of ways out and hit those hills.
Get off the highway.
and they just open up all the way around you. And so what's interesting is the more you do these events and the more you put on and the more you say, yeah, I think we can, instead of no, I don't know if we can, right? Yeah. And it's all your attitude. It's all your perspective. Whether you say you can or you can't, you are right?
Yep.
And so the biggest thing that I've learned is, okay, just be open instead of closed.
Yep.
Yes, sure. We can pull off lightning trails and all the electrical grid and all the things that need to happen. And we're going to pull it off and it's going to be great and we'll do it and we'll beat the timeline. And
as we wind down our conversation, we were talking earlier about a family night of Monopoly. And I think it's a great testament to what you just said. You have different styles of playing that board game, but the one that works inevitably is the one that is investing in itself and putting money in and really putting together what is going to produce for them in the future. And when I think about Singing Water, I know you've put blood, sweat, and tears into this, but it's setting up a legacy that provides for the region for as long as it's here. And it's beautiful to see the competitive nature of we want to do it, the community spirit to we're doing research with Texas A&M here in Comfort that could benefit all of perceived competitors in the region, but you're doing it to help all of those other vineyards and to help the family land that is looking for a way to produce, if you can solve for that.
And let's touch on that for a minute, because it's an important conversation that's happening here in Kendall County. You would know the stats better than I do on the growth rate in Kendall County, and I'll let you fill in the blanks.
I'll fill in the blanks.
I just know that it's a lot, right? We have tremendous growth happening here. We have people coming in and buying up land. But what do you do with that land that is not just going to sit there, right? It has to be producing something. It has to do something. That's how entrepreneurs think. That's how businesses think. And so if they're going to buy this land and at a premium, then they need a way to make money on that. And the easiest answer is throw up an apartment building.
Yep.
Right? That's easy money. We know it's going to make money. Sell it to a developer. It's going to make money. But part of the protection aspect of protecting our environment is saying, no, let's rethink that a little bit. How can we do the cash crops? How can we make this happen? Because it was not feasible to have a 7-acre vineyard grow even one more row with Pierce's disease. But I will tell you, if this 3-year study pans out the way that it's progressing right now, you'll see vineyards all over this place. You'll see up the hill, right? It'll be worth it. Yep. It'll make sense. And then when people say, well, how come you're doing that? Why are you able to do that? Then you'll see vineyards popping up all around the Fredericksburg area, Comfort, Kerrville. We'll all become
making great use of that farmland.
And now we've become the new Napa, right? If you've ever visited Napa, Sonoma, that whole area, breathtakingly beautiful, but it's maintained agriculture as its core.
And that the impact that has is it allows so many more people to hold on to their property, to have a career that allows them to live and work in comfort. And then it gives back to the nonprofit community, because I know that you do this as well, things like the Boys and Girls Club, where you're really able to give that vision of service and support, but they're also looking at you for inspiration on, this is where I want to aspire to work, this is where I want to aspire to be, this is what I know we can do, because Missy and Andy have done a wonderful job setting that example.
Well, and hopefully, you can only have so many landowners and business owners. Not everybody is going to be in that category, but that's fine, because all the other categories that make this place work, right? From the people that sell wine club memberships and keep the coffers moving, right? To the people that are building and making the flatbreads in the kitchen and the ovens. And then, we've got the land managers out there that are making sure that the sprays go onto the plants at the right time and the nitrogen levels in the soil are correct. I don't know. I know we employ officially somewhere around 40 people to date, but that doesn't count all the contractors and all the people coming in that fix the things and build the things that are beyond just our natural operating.
Well, I'm so excited to come back to Singing Water for a concert, for a beautiful weekend day and take advantage of what you've built here. It's peaceful, it's serene, and it's making a lasting impact in the region. So thank you, Missy and Andy, for everything you're doing to build Texas.
Thank you to all of our sponsors. Our lead sponsor, the Comfort Area Foundation, Colibri Magic, Hotel Giles, America Reclaimed, Singing Water Vineyards, and Das Greenhouse, and so many others who have contributed to building a bright future for Comfort, Texas. To learn more, visit our website, buildingtexasshow.com. You can also connect with us on Facebook at Building Texas.